Hi, class. Just want to make sure that I posted the introduction for week 2, but I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Um, I'll post a video every week, but I won't necessarily just take you through what's already on the syllabus. So it's important just to follow along the syllabus. So our topics for week 2, as it's on the syllabus, as it's also in week 2 introduction module. Every week I'll have an introduction module that tells you everything that you need to read and everything that we need to do. So I won't have to necessarily make a video on that. I can make a video on certain lectures and discussions and things like that. But for week 2, we have our topics are human rights, policing, introduction. So read This Ain't Your Daddy's Rodeo. There's a story, Suicide by Cop, a code 2 called New Orleans Police Department. My father wrote that section. And then you have human rights policing, chapter 1. The introduction, then human rights in extraordinary times, goals, what do we want, human rights, who's going to help protect it, cops. Next section, who are we, cops, professors, and more cops, oh my. And then reflections of 30 years of policing, thoughts for the reader. My father wrote that section. Points of departure, what happens next. And then for cops, I have a discussion activity for them to do. And then obviously there's a discussion board for us to complete. I just want to say a few things though, for your community engaged research projects. In your introductions, a lot of you have already identified a community organization or people that you want to interview. As you well know, you want to get their idea of how they want to be policed, and more specifically, what they think human rights policing looks like. For most people, they think that so long the police are respectful, that's good enough for policing, and for police, so long they abide by the law, that's good enough for policing. And in this class, that is definitively not good enough for policing. What we will consider good enough for policing is police officers protecting the human rights of people, and police officers applying human rights to their police work. And you'll start to learn as you begin to read these chapters exactly what this human rights policing looks like and how it could be applied to the everyday activities of law enforcement agents. And so that's why it's important to read these chapters. And so for this class, you're going to do a bit of qualitative research or ethnography. You're going to go to these community organizations and you're going to talk to them about their experiences with police, their conceptions of police, how they view police, what they think the role of policing should be in society, what the role of policing should be from within their community. You will talk to them about what human rights means. You would talk about how that you're a scholar at UWL taking a class on human rights, and you want to understand what human rights might mean from their perspective, and what human rights policing might mean from the perspective of that community. And the goal, of course, is to inform us as scholars of how various community members and how various community organizations understand human rights policing, so that people like us can actually try to create and fight for social policies that make human rights a policing in our communities and in our country and for our brothers and sisters. That's the idea. But how can we really learn what human rights policing is simply from ourselves? No, we need to go into the community. We need to go to community organizations, especially community organizations that have been skeptical of policing, and try to figure out how they want to be policed and how they view what human rights policing might mean from their own community, giving specific examples. And so throughout the semester, then, we'll talk to you about how to organize that. I already have an interview guidelines that are in campus module of how you should develop maybe 3 or 4 important themes of the types of questions that you want to ask community members or community organizations. And from each of those themes, you want to have some sample questions that you'll ask that will address those themes. So that'll be coming up. So look at that interview guideline and start thinking what themes might be important to focus on in your interview with community members. And you may not know that until you have an initial conversation with the community members of the community organization about what are their central concerns, what are their focal concerns that are going on in the community, and how police can be a helping hand to help out, preserve, and protect human rights in those communities. And so you will be collecting this type of data to inform us how we can improve human rights policing for specific communities. And of course, at the end of your paper, after you talk about what you did and you talk about your findings, you're going to make a policy analysis of how we can better implement human rights policing for those communities that you have studied. And that way, we're not just writing papers, we can actually inform social policy that actually imparts real material change in our communities. And so that's the idea. So start trying to make initial contact with these community organizations. Let them know that you're a scholar at UWL, that you're taking a class on human rights policing, that you want to be an advocate for members of the community that you're interested in researching for this project, and that you want to learn their perspective of what human rights policing can look like. And so you want to start making that initial contact now. Of course, if you can't gain entree, if you can't get access to the community organization or the people, then you can't do the project. And so you want to start trying to make contact with those community organizations. Again, let them know that you're a scholar at UWL, that you're taking a class on human rights policing, that you want to advance the goals of human rights policing, and you want to learn what human rights policing looks like from that community perspective, so that you can inform social policy on how to improve policing for that community organization or for those community members. So that's the start. I wrote this book in a way that I think is very accessible, trying to avoid heavy academic jargon, and I believe that you will enjoy it. So look forward to seeing your discussion board and start making that initial contact with community members. Other than that, thank you. Just keep up the strong start to this semester. I appreciate you all.